Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. Bienvenidos a nuestra iglesia. My name is Cheryl Lardy, and I've been a member here since 2001. I was drawn to this church because of its welcoming nature and inclusivity. I continue to be inspired by the hopes and dreams of those who consider this church our home. Our weekly worship is where we connect, share information, and inspiration. To begin, let's acknowledge this geographical place where we are currently located, the home of and traditional lands of the Tonkawa and Payaya peoples of the Cualtecan Band, original and indigenous stewards of this land. On that land is now located San Antonio, Texas, claimed as part of the United States of America. At our church, we believe and act in a universal love that binds us in mutual care and affection, especially in our work for justice for all and for our planet. Our faith is all-inclusive, and all means all. If you are new to us or visiting for the first time today, we welcome you to sign in on the chat stream. We'd like to get to know you and follow up with you. Wherever you are on your life's journey, we hope you will find your place with us.
May nothing evil cross this door, and may your fortune ever bright above these windows reign alone, and rain go by. By faith made strong, our rafters move, withstand the battering of a storm. This earth through all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. These shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our limbs with holy wine, till every casual door opens into God's shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep it out and hold love in.
Our chalice lighter today is Eleanor Keith. Eleanor is 13 years old, and her family has been a member of this church since 2011. Eleanor enjoys reading, creative writing, and riding her bike whenever she has the chance.
As we light our chalice today, let us remember that we are a part of a great community of faith. May this dancing flame inspire us to live life with our ideals of love, justice, and truth.
We are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all are welcome as blessings, and the human family lives in forgiveness and grace, whole and reconciled. We know that this aim takes work, and so we are committed to live and behave as a community in covenant. Let's recite our covenant that articulates our guidelines and binds us together in community. The words can be found on your screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
Good morning. Do not try to save the whole world or to do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is your life falls into your own cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue. As a way for us to connect as a community, you are invited to share a joyful event, a sorrow or concern by entering it on the chat stream. Please let us know what is in your heart, for ours is a welcoming community where we can find connection, a spiritual community where we come fully alive. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are heard and held in compassion. At this time of uncertainty, may we listen more deeply and grow more involved with and connected to each other. Let us join in silent meditation as we write our joys and sorrows on the chat screen while Jaime plays our meditation music. Take a deep cleansing breath and exhale. For all our joys, sorrows, and concerns, may we feel empathy and compassion. For all that is unspoken, may the caring of our community offer a space of deep kindness, loving, and just action. For the story wisdom, we must learn to trust ourselves and others, and that requires a certain bit of faith. Faith is not just about the unseen, but about the growing possibilities. So I share with you a story of a child who did a wonderful painting in school, and perhaps you know what that's like. And when the teacher saw it, she was puzzled. You know how some of those creative paintings are? Well, as a good teacher, you're a lot of teachers out there, those colors and shapes, not really being able to tell, exactly what it was. And because she was a teacher, one of the important laws of teaching children about letting them be creative is that you let them tell you what it is. You never ask, you see, because that would imply that you couldn't tell what it was. So this teacher knew she wasn't supposed to ask, and so she praised it, how they sometimes do, and she suggested the student take it home to that great art gallery that we all have in our homes called the refrigerator. And so that's what happened. Very carefully, the student brought it home, wrapped it all up so that it wouldn't bend or anything. And they were quite proud of their new creation, as they should be. And when the student got home, they pulled it out right away and offered it to their mother. And the mother said, "Oh, honey, that's beautiful. Let's put it up right in the art gallery, the refrigerator, right next to the church calendar." I'm sure. But she made a mistake. It was just a small mistake. She said, "Can you tell me what it is?" See, this mother wasn't a teacher, or at least a trained one. Or maybe she was. Who can tell? And the little student beamed with such joy, and very proudly, as they fastened the picture to the fridge, said, "Mommy, it's a possibility." The end. It is now time for the offering, and I want to share some information from the past, designed, of course, to make you more generous. This is from the New Year's service that I preached here in 1996. Quote, "Most of us don't remember that January 25th, 1962, I wasn't here then, was the dedication of this new complex, not the sanctuary, but the whole complex out there. The Church on a Hill, it was called. That was 59 years ago, 1962 was, and it was the fulfillment of a dream back then. Some of you may be here this morning, probably very few who remember that. The minister at that time was Reverend Phil Shug, and he said at that dedication, "There is a life and a vitality in a great church which is in no way dependent upon one person within it, but which is the result and the cooperation and spiritual bond of the individuals who compose it," end quote. And he said, "As we settle into our new church buildings, we realize the magnitude of a dream. We see its fulfillment and feel the strength and the spirit of those who brought us to this place. What lies ahead will bring changes, new challenges, new faces joining us. Strength will be needed to ever-expanding visions which lead to aspiration and achievement, to ever-changing reality by challenging us to growth and to understanding, to spiritual growth which permits us to transcend the good of yesterday and today in the shaping of tomorrow. To those who cherished vision, it is now for us to continue the continuity of dreams and efforts always needed in the building of continuity." Imagine, that was in 1962. And then, as I said, that was preached in 1996. The next New Year's sermon in 1997, January 12th, was the groundbreaking Sunday on this new sanctuary. So the offering is a sacrament of the free church, supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values over the years, today, and tomorrow. You may make an offering on our online giving portal through the link on the screen while we enjoy our musical anthem. The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell is one of my favorite songs, and I have been performing it for more than 50 years. But the song ends with the author only being 20 years old. So in 1999, when I turned 50, I was inspired to write 2 more verses to bring the song up to my turning 50. Yesterday, a child came out to wander, caught a dragon fly inside a jar. Fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons they go round and round. Painted ponies go up and down. We're captives on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round in the circle game. Then the child moves 10 times round the season, skated over 10 clear frozen streams, and words like when you're older must please him, and promises of Sunday make his dreams, and the seasons they go round and round. Painted ponies go up and down. We're captives on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round in the circle game. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now. Dark wheels turn to car wheels through the town, and they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet too slow, those circles down, and the seasons they go round and round. Painted ponies go up and down. We're captives on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round in the circle game. No. So the years slip by and now the child is 20. Though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true, well, they'll be a dream, maybe better dreams than 20, before the last revolving year is through. That's where Joni's song ends, and my 2 verses begin. Well, the years fly by, and now the boy's a man, with a wife and 3 pretty little girls. His dream of ministry and helping hand turns him 50 in a different world. And the seasons they go round and round. Painted ponies go up and down. We're still captives on the carousel of time. We still can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round in the circle game. He knows now there are many years to come. He fears not future, pines not for the past. He's learned that love will live when we are done. And it's the journey, not the end, that is our task. And the seasons they go round and round. Painted ponies go up and down. We're captives on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round in the circle game. Our church is our community. Many of us consider this our spiritual home. We bless it with our gifts and talents that we may succeed in fulfilling our goals, especially in our service to each other and to our widening community. We are a stand for justice, equity, and compassion in our greater community of humanity and to non-humans too. We are grateful for all our energies, ideas, cooperation, and contributions that make our community come alive today. The reading this morning is from a meditation from Black theologian Howard Thurman, whom Reverend Mark introduced to us as a part of the MLK Sunday service a few weeks ago. It's called The Growing Edge. All around us, worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree. The roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth. Against the time when there shall be new lives, fresh blossoms, green fruit, such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung, the one more thing to try when all else has failed, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and men and women have lost their reason, the source of confidence. When worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash, the birth of a child, life's most dramatic answer to death. This is the growing edge incarnate. Look well to the growing edge. Sermon this morning is, you have been granted a new year. What will you do with it? I start with two traditional New Year's toasts. One, as you slide down the banisters of life, may the splinters never point the wrong way. And two, may all your troubles in the coming year be as short as your New Year's resolutions. My first sermon of the new year, Zoom preached to the UU Church of the Hill Country in Kerrville, where I am now preaching once a month, was titled, Hindsight is Now Truly 2020. It was early in the month and I could still use humor. But by the second Sunday, when I Zoom preached for the Galveston Fellowship after the violent attack on the Capitol, I didn't feel comfortable using it at the beginning. But after I came up with the title of that first sermon, Hindsight is Now Truly 2020, I was inspired to write a poem with that same title. So I share it with you. Hindsight is now, thank God, or goddess, or goodness, truly 2020. We have always said that, but now we mean it. We have survived the first plague year in a century and made the Spanish flu look like a picnic. We survived the other plague as well, the raving, narcissistic lunatic masquerading as a president, responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands by his mismanagement. So this new year, thank God, goddess, goodness, we start with an actual president who shows empathy, actual love, compassion for family, country, even his dogs. The title for the Galveston sermon was the same as today's, but it comes after the wonderful inauguration happened, full of hope and love, so it will be a different sermon, though related. I will use some of the same poetry I have written, since I took a writer's workshop at the end of last fall and have been inspired to write about what has been happening in our country. Though I humble before the spiritual genius writing of our new American poet laureate, 22-year-old Amanda Gorman, with her incredible poem and interpretive reading, The Hill We Climb, destined, no doubt, to be compared with MLK's I Have a Dream speech. But let us, as our new President of Unity, Joe Biden, reminded us, remember before we can move ahead. remember what a horrendous year 2020 was, that plague year, that election year, that year the Senate acquitted Trump of impeachment, of which the House had convicted him. That year the economy was in deep dive and we in quarantine, not even able to be in church or family gatherings. That year the president seemed to be getting and acting worse daily. But thank God, goddess or goodness, he lost the election. But we weren't even sure until literally Inauguration Day whether Biden would be able to take office, both figuratively and literally. But towards the end of 2020, when we couldn't even have New Year's parties, many of us were deeply concerned, depressed, and left wondering. So this is what I told folks at Galveston. Remember back. Now, not many of us here remember World War II anymore, but some do. Imagine how many New Year's Eves back then that folks worried about the world. Then there was the Cuban Missile Crisis. More of us remember that. So perhaps the first New Year we worried about really was back in 1983. For most of us had read George Orwell's dystopian novel written way back in 1948 about a bleak future with somebody named Big Brother watching, called 1984. And on New Year's Eve in 1983, we were wondering what was going to happen in that new year called 1984, and now, of course, we survived it, and that's ancient history. Or the Great Millennium Controversy that actually lasted for 2 years, depending on when you believe it started. Our Unitarian Universalist churches were in great arguments. Did it start in 2000 or 2001? I actually took a poll. I don't know how many of you were here when I did. On Sunday morning, I said, by show of hands, how many of you believe it starts in 2000 or 2001? It was about evenly divided, but that didn't stop the arguments. And then, of course, there was the Y2K crisis of computers not being smart enough to count after 1999 or something like that. And if computers couldn't count past 1999, the world would surely end, or something like that. But we survived that as well. Turned out computers were smart enough to count beyond 1999, and it was us who weren't smart enough. And I wrote a poem for the 1999 New Year's Eve service called End of the World, Skeptical Blues. I light the incense and brace myself, called by holy forces I cannot begin to understand, measure, or name, to a struggle which would make Sisyphus weep to hold back the coming millennium, almost as if I heard a still small voice within, almost as if I were a true believer rather than a faithful doubter, a loving, hoping skeptic, that somehow in this unfathomable and immeasurable universe I might be of any consequence at all, less than a blip on a time radar screen, smaller than a nanosecond in the clock of life, while swimming in Paradox Lake as the sun goes down and the sky of my life, like a closing movie shot, turns deep colors of pink, purple, red, yellow, blue, white, and then all is black and the comfort of night has fallen. The story of my life, as interconnected with you, whoever you are that hear or read this. Tonight's New Year's Eve of the new millennium 2000, but only if you believe that we can start at zero. The story of my life, as connected with family. Children I have helped raise and loved so dearly, even as they are now growing up and away. Wife of my heart and mother of our children. But I will have to admit it, I am the most important character of all time, but only to me, and only in connection with you. I am a motherless child now, yet still exist, though somehow diminished. I have been a fatherless child for the last 25 years, and somewhat diminished. And on this great and world-transforming eve, I will leap into tomorrow, into the arms of love and life itself, into a trust of tomorrow, a love for today, and a blessed memory of yesterday. Would I change my life if I had to live it over? A stupid question, really. As if we could be hypothetical about our past. It is as useless a question as, do you believe in God? Because I always ask back, it all depends, doesn't it? Or even rabbinically answer with the question, why do you ask? What are you hoping to find out about me by that awful question? So come, let us hold hands, close our eyes, hope for the best, pray for the rest, and then leap boldly into the great time chasm of tomorrow. Next year, next century, next millennium, next life. And then, of course, after that, there was 2012 and the Mayan calendar that predicted the world would end in 2013 or something like that. And some people believe that. And yes, we survived that. Each new year is an opportunity for a new way of doing things. And I'm not talking about resolutions, but serious consideration of ourselves and our communities to which we belong, and especially in light of the divisions of our country. So a few things I want to bring to your attention. First, that peace must begin from within, so we start with ourselves, our families. We have just finished the cultural holidays of Christmas, along with other ones, but that's the predominant one, and so I will argue that it has little to do with Christianity anymore. So I also wrote a poem for that, actually about 2 weeks after Christmas, called Taking Down the Christmas Tree, and you'll maybe see why. How do you know when it's time to take down that ancient pagan evergreen, full of memory objects from your and your significant other's life, hanging on every branch, practically singing songs of love, laughter, family, and the ancestors, putting away those so-called ornaments, which we know are really symbols of bygone Christmases, time capsules, memory stimulators, child creations, some maybe a century old, back to great-grandparents. Or an ornament shatters and the spell is broken, and we may even cry as if we had witnessed a death. So precious are those memories hung upon that ancient pagan evergreen that we now know as much more, a sacred family tree, a Yggdrasil, the holy world tree of Norse mythology, the tree long having been the primal symbol for so many cultures. And for me, Christmas has always been about love and family, the religion of Jesus, not about Jesus. As light of love, bringer of peace and caller to justice and compassion, as universal love, as religion beyond doctrine, not requiring beliefs which divide but ones which unite, but asking for a heart filled with tolerance for all. So when should we take down the sacred tree when we need it now more than ever? So yes, religions and relationships are crucial for us, even if they have to take place on Zoom like this worship service, and holidays always remind us of that. I believe that religion is about relationship, about what I call the sacred or spiritual dimension that is not supernatural, but like love, a kind of mystical experience that is perhaps hard or even impossible to put into words, because it is more in the realm of feeling or emotions. Mark Twain once said that the future ain't what it used to be. And yet every new year, the future is here again. But it always reminds us of the past. It's why I chose Joni Mitchell's great song, The Circle Game, as part of that song that I wanted to use, with that wonderful refrain, and the seasons, they go round and round, painted ponies go up and down. We're captives on the carousel of time, we can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round in that circle game. And as I said in the introduction, when I turned 50, I added a verse or two. I didn't add that that was the same year my mother died. Also, of course, very important in my life. But the last verse I wrote was especially relevant to me. He knows now there are many years to come and fears not future, pines not for the past. He's learned that love will live when we are done, and it's the journey, not the end, that is our task. Yes, we have left a horrible year behind us in so many ways, political as well as health crisis, and we are not done with either, but have the hope of recovery from both. We have seen more black brothers and sisters killed by police, and protests erupt in cities all over the country as our national leader had encouraged division, racism, and a dangerous partisanship that has brought us to the brink of another civil war. And yet there is hope in a new year, a new president, a new opportunity. An opportunity for change, to get going, to co-create a new world, and the letting go of the past and the past mistakes after we have learned from them and vowed not to repeat them, of course. And I found in the inauguration an interfaith, spiritual as well as political inspiration. And if you were not in tears, you weren't listening closely enough. I can't remember the last time a priest has prayed an interfaith social justice prayer that I found myself saying, right on, all the way along. I was so impressed that so many different groups were represented and that there seems like an attempt to bring both sides of the aisle together. And I, like so many of you and so much of the country, has felt so divided, so hopeless, so fearful that Civil War 2.0 was on the verge of breaking out, that the insurrection was just the beginning, but felt like we now have a chance. I am not naive enough to think there will not be pushback. I cannot remember a time of political transition more fraught with conflict and potential for violence. And I sometimes wonder if this could be the end of democracy, and yet believe that good will triumph, that the country is not ready to give up. So we have been granted a new year, a new chance, a new president. What will we do with it? I don't think this is a partisan issue, but an issue of pulling the country together as Americans of all colors, genders, sexual orientations, all equal under the law and economic balance. And as people granted a new year, how many times did the new president, so unlike the old one, say that it is up to us, that we must make this work, remembering that there is no such thing as an individual, that we are all connected, all independent, interdependent, all part of the natural world and the universe. I am comfortable substituting the word love for the word God, because I feel religion is about relationship with what I've always called you, me, and the universe, the sacred dimension of a loving and compassionate human relationship with others, self, and the mysterious natural interconnectedness of the universe, which makes it all sacred. Scientists have discovered that trees actually communicate with one another through roots, that they somehow talk, that they have a form of consciousness, and some scientists now believe that the universe does as well, and I want to tap into that more. Find out more how we are all connected, what that means for our environment and our responsibility. And also that we humans are related, and so I wrote a poem for this as well. It's called This Year, Make America Good Again. And I wrote this on New Year's Day. Okay, so today is New Year's Day, 2021, and I am 71 years old. That means I've seen a few years come and go. I will readily admit that 2020 may have been one of the worst years in my memory, the year of the plague. After all, killing hundreds of thousands, the election also defeated the most evil president of our time. This new year brings us a new hope that good might yet prevail, love overcome hate. Let our national resolution be not to become great again, but good. Good, as in just, loving, sharing, tolerant, understanding, generous. Let us become a good people again and stop worrying about only ourselves as if we weren't all related, humans as well as the earth and the environment. We are all one. Make America good again. Make us part of the universe again. I believe that we co-create part of the future, and part of the future happens to us. As someone said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Simply put, we must do what we can. We have been given a new year. What will we do with it? Amen. Shalom, which means peace in Hebrew. Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you in Arabic. Abrados a todo, hugs all around in Spanish. Namaste, the Hindu greeting the divine within me, greets the divine within you. Blessed be, and vaya con Dios means goodbye in Spanish, literally go with God, and so vaya con su Dios, which means go with your God or your idea. Go in peace, and may the spirit of love be with us now and for a long, long time. Please enjoy our postlude from Jaime in these final moments on your YouTube to enter into your expression on the chat stream. For those of you willing and available for some much-needed sharing during coffee hour, we invite you to remain. I'll be participating today, and for those of you who cannot or will not stay, please go forward with our blessing. We hope to see and hear from you soon.